Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my achievement guide for Hallows End in Wotlk Classic. This is one of the big 8 world events that you need to complete for what a long strange trip it's been, and that beautiful Violet Proto-Drake reward for doing it. So today I'm going to be going through the mandatory achievements to complete Hallowed Be Thy Name, which gives you the long strange trip progress and the Hallowed title, as well as the optional achievements if you want to just get a big point number. So without further ado, let's begin with what I'll describe as the 2 most important achievements as they feed into most of the others, those being Trick or Treat and Trick and Treats of Azeroth. A major part of the Hallows End event are the candy buckets that'll pop up in most inns throughout the Eastern Kingdoms, Kalimdor and the Outlands. Each of them will have a once per event quest that gives you a handful of candy, which can contain all you need for a lot of the other achievements. But for these 2 specifically, all you need to do is click on any one of them to get Trick or Treat, and all of them to get Tricks and Treats of Azeroth. Now, as going through the entire list of where every one of the buckets are, in video for both Horde and Alliance, isn't a great viewing experience, I've got a link to a few images I've made up in the description below to all the locations and my recommended routes to how to get around to them, so please feel free to check those out. I will also mention as a little bit of trivia that despite the achievement system coming out in Wrath of the Lich King, the Tricks and Treats of Northrend achievement didn't come out until Cataclysm patch 4.2, so don't worry, you won't need to go through the spooky skeleton continent during this Halloween event. But to move on, there are 4 achievements that all stem from the items you get from the handfuls of candy from each of those candy buckets. First is That Sparkling Smile, that requires you to use a toothpick. Second is Out With It, where you just amass as many tricky treats as you can, then consume them until you vomit. Third is Nerd Rage, where you need to get 50 honourable kills after eating a nerd candy. Personally, I'd suggest Altric Valley, as there's a lot of people and all it takes is one game to get a little bit grindy to get that many honourable kills, and to play a bit more passively as you don't get honourable kills when you're dead and you only get so many nerds. And last of these 4 is the Masquerade, where you need to get transformed into 7 different things with the 7 different types of transformation wands that you get from the handful of candy. A few key things to note is that if you're hit by the random wand, then whatever you get transformed into doesn't actually count towards these achievements. It has to be the specific ones, and you can't target yourself. So getting help from guildies or trading wand hits with other achievement hunters is not only recommended, but downright necessary for completing this. To move along, the next 3 achievements are all involving the world boss, their Headless Horseman, and in a similar way the candy buckets feed off each other. The first is Bring Me the Head of... requiring you to kill the Headless Horseman. He's summonable once a day by each party member in the Scarlet Monastery graveyard, similar to how Corrin Diabrew was summonable, which is great because he drops epic rings for physical DPS, magical DPS, and healers. There are no tank rings, I'm afraid, this time. He also drops a cool plate DPS helm with a on-use effect that lets you laugh at people, which, while I don't condone this, is a powerful tool for BMing. A main hand sword that summons pumpkins and is pretty solid for DKs and warrior tanks with the expertise. 2 mounts, the magical broom, which is temporary to Hallows End event, but you can use it. And the far more permanent Horseman's Fiery Warhorse that has a 1% drop chance. Then lastly are the important 3 items for the other achievements. The Sinister Squashling Pet, the Hallowed Helm, and the Weighted Jack-o'-lanterns. As the other 2 achievements I mentioned just before are Sinister Calling, where you need to have the Hallowed Helm and Sinister Squashling Pet, as these could be acquired during TBC. If you were super forward looking and had these in your bank, this is an achievement that you could have pre-obtained. And secondly is Check Your Head, where you need to throw a weighted jack-o'-lantern at each of the different races. My personal recommendation is to run around Dalaran throwing these pumpkins at people, as it's not only a neutral zone, so chances are the opposite faction won't hurt you for doing this, but you'll really just have everyone in one place to throw it. I'll also say that this is a buff that you can click off of, so if you're one of the lesser represented races, like say the gnomes, I implore you, do your civic duty, click off the pumpkin helmet so more people can throw pumpkins at you. You're doing God's work. Now to move on, there are 2 more mandatory achievements, neither of which are associated with each other, so I can't bundle them together like all the others. The first of which being the Saviour of Hallows End, where you need to complete one of the daily quests that are completable during the Headless Horseman attacks on some of the minor villages in starting zones. These mainly involve putting out the fires that the horseman lights across the village by throwing water buckets at them. I recommend going to Goldshire in Elwyn Forest or Térenas in Dun Morrow for the Alliance. Or for the Horde, the easiest is Brill in Tristful Glades and Razor Hill in Durotar. Both because they're easy, but because there's also where most of the people will go, so the chances of succeeding at each of these events is a lot higher. Then lucky last of the mandatory achievements is Rotten Hollow, where for the Horde you need to complete the quests Stinking Up South Shore and Rotten Eggs and Ruined Kegs, which are both started by Dark Caller Yanka, who is by the Wickerman, which is directly west of the Undercity on the road to Silverpine Forest. And these quests mainly involve messing around with the Alliance in South Shore. Then the Alliance version requires you to complete The Power of Pine and Crashing the Wickerman Festival, which both begin from Sergeant Hartman in South Shore. These are primarily around countering the Horde shenanigans. And now lastly, before we close the video, are the 2 optional achievements, and those are the only 2 in the entire Hallows End achievement catalogue. The first is the mask task, where you need to acquire any 1 flimsy mask, and the other is a mask for all occasions, where you need to collect all 20 flimsy masks. You can get these masks from the innkeeper trick or treat bags, as well as the handful of candies from the candy buckets in most inns. And I'm going to be honest, thankfully this isn't one of the mandatory achievements, as these masks aren't tradable. And you can get duplicate drops, so it's entirely possible you might miss out on a mask for all occasions if you're actually a little bit unlucky. However, that's all for this event. The biggest time sinks are going to be the old world tours for trick and treating, but I do hope my little guides do help you out there. But if you got anything out of this video, want to stay tuned for more guides and MMO content to come, please like and subscribe below. But no matter what you do, however, I hope you have a great rest of your day.